Welcome to Coach's Corner, everyone. Thanks for watching the show. I'm your host, Coach Tripp. This show is brought to you by Sandy Sansing Chevrolet. On this Saturday, we got an old teammate in mind, the Honorable Christopher Todd Judge Roper. Rope, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Tripp, man. Long time. I see that we both graying a little bit there.
Yeah, we are graying a little bit. We got a little older. Todd was my teammate at Alabama, early 80s. And Rope, man, we got so much to talk about. We're going to have a blast. We're going to tell stories and everything. But I want to start from the beginning. I know you live in Siler City, North Carolina. We'll talk about that. About 50 miles south of Chapel Hill. But you grew up in Snellville, Georgia. Is that right? Talk about mom and dad and your siblings.
Oh, wow. So no siblings. Was an only child. Mom couldn't have any more kids after me. I don't know what that says, but that's the way it played out. But, my mom and dad, rest in peace. Mom died in 2007, dad in 2017. But they gave me all they had, and they loved me. They were always with me. My dad played with me all the time. My mom backed me up all the time. She worked on making sure you go to church, making sure you have good manners, you treat people with respect. I mean, I couldn't have had a better childhood. I mean, it was tough. My dad was tough. My mom was, nice. And when things got, I always said, if daddy was mad at you, mama would bail you out. But if mama and daddy are both mad at you, it's a long day. So I can tell you that. But just was blessed to have them in my life and just, walk me through all the stages. So it was great, man. Snellville was a town about 5,000 strong, caution light in the gas station. Daddy, we moved there back when I was about in the 5th grade. So we were traveled in Georgia. We stayed in Hartwell for a little bit, and then we were in Rome, Georgia, or actually Summerville, Georgia, and then kind of ended up in Snellville from when I was 10 until I left to go to Alabama.
How'd you get your interest in sports? Where did you get that from? Was your dad a sports fan? Did he
Dad
encourage you?
Sport. Yeah. Dad did track and baseball in high school. And he went to Georgia Tech and he tried to make it on the basketball team there, but he had bad ankles and just wasn't good enough to make it. But to be honest with you, from when I was a little boy, I think Dad talked about when I was about 5 years old, they were watching TV when one of the Super Bowls was on. And, didn't have it 3 stations, so it was just the only game on. But as a little kid, I just sit and watch football, watch it on the TV. And so I started playing football when I was 6 years old. And then in Georgia, you play basketball, football, and baseball. And really, baseball and football are kind of king in Georgia, and then basketball kind of would be the third option. But started football at 6, started basketball when I was 11, and did baseball when I was 6 up until I was about 13. So it was Daddy loved sports. He loved throwing the ball. He loved teaching. We did pump, pass, and kick. Remember pump, pass, and kick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Walter was a national. Walter Lewis was a national champion.
Oh, tell me about it, dude. I mean, I was like, I went like 3 times, and I remember one year I was way ahead at the base level, and then come to kick time, I stubbed my toe on the ground, and the ball just rolled off the tee. And man, he hammered me all the way home. He said, "Man, you had this one, and you just sat there, you didn't concentrate, you didn't think, you didn't do." So fast forward, the next year I go back and I get to the stage right before you go to the Falcons game. And I'll never forget, man, I got there, we was in College Park, and it was just, I was in my group, and dude, there was this one guy, he looked like he was 6'5", kind of like Andy Reid, showing Andy Reid doing passing kick.
I see that picture.
And dude, when he kicked that ball, it like was one of those perfect punts, like a Malcolm Simmons punt where it spirals, it drops down and lands right on the. And anyway, long story short, I didn't make the Falcons game, but it was it was a fun time. But we would do, we'd do stuff like that. And Daddy he liked to compete. I mean, we hunt, fish, we country people. I mean, we'd hunt, fish, and do all those kind of things together. And just I think sometimes, you know how your parent doesn't make it, but they say, I didn't make it, but man, I want my kid to make it. And I'm going to do what I can do to get him to make it. So I think my dad was kind of driven like that, because I remember in 9th grade in high school, he took me, and the Snellville's about 30 miles from Atlanta. So daddy had me a weight set when I was like Sears and Roebuck, concrete weights, you know. I had those when I was in 7th grade. And then come 9th grade, you remember Nautilus equipment that used to come in and stuff.
Yeah.
So daddy had me and some guys at high school. I rode with the 16-year-olds. They drove to Atlanta, and we had a trainer work us out in Atlanta downtown at the New York Life building and do all our weight training and our conditioning and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, like, he was ahead of the game as far as getting you physically fit, you know, getting you strong. And I know it helped my 40 time. I mean,
wow, that's an interesting. Yeah, because the weightlifting was not a big thing back then. And if you were doing it, you were way ahead of the game. And that's important. And that's what else, you know, have a parent like that. Well, you know, Carrie Good and I talk about the importance of dads being involved in your life like that. But George O'Leary would have us in high school come to school at 5:30 in the morning to lift weights before school.
Nice.
No, we did that throughout the year, Rope, and we would crush teams 45-0. I mean, we were just so much bigger, faster, and stronger than they were. Wow. All right, how did you get to Bama? Talk about your high school coach, a couple high school teammates that you were buddies with, and how you got recruited to go to Bama. What that was.
All right. So this is crazy, dude. So I had 3 high school coaches. I had Coach Hughes, I had Coach Lester, and I had Coach Meyer. We only won 6 games in 4 years.
Oh my
gosh.
It.
That was my high school. We were like a low 4A in Georgia. So we would be playing schools. We had about 40 players. We'd be playing schools that had 90 to 120 players. And we just didn't have the horses. Just didn't. We were trying to play both ways, and we just didn't have it. So, you know, high school wasn't because I played for these programs you're describing, these winning programs. And I was just a dude that was, you know, my freshman year, a senior got hurt. I started my freshman year in high school, you know, started playing linebacker right my first year. And really, you know, it wasn't until probably about my sophomore year. Now check this out. This is in Georgia, so you have to take it for what it's worth. I'm cutting grass at my home on a Saturday. There's a big old Cadillac pulls up, one of them long, like sedan like Cadillacs. Man gets out and he says, son, is your daddy home? I said, yes, sir, he's inside. Because, you know, he's inside. I'm cutting the grass. You get you know how that goes, right? So he says, yes, I need to speak with your dad. And so I go get dad. Dad comes out. The man says, look, said, I'm so-and-so. I'm an alumnus of the University of Georgia. Said, Coach Dooley wants Todd to come up and compete with all the guys in the state. He said, it's all paid for. Don't worry about that. I'll come pick him up. He'll go out there and compete for a week. Everything's paid for, food, stuff. You don't have to worry about him. And I'll bring him back home. So the next Saturday, I'm at the University of Georgia working out with Herschel Walker, Jeff Butler, all the dudes all over the state, man. Warner Robbins, Valdosta dudes, guys from up, you know, Lakeside, all those kind of things. So that was where it started. Like, I got to compete at Georgia, and then that's where, you know, it's crazy, man. I mean, the way it happens for each of us is just so crazy, because like Herschel was a freak. He was just like a man of his own. But like his senior year, he got MVP of the camp. My senior year, I get MVP of the camp because he was a little bit older than me. So, but that's how the recruiting of me got started. And so once Georgia got on the hook, and see, I was going to Georgia games from my sophomore year in high school on, and then it was just crazy because my second high school coach, he would take me to the Georgia All-Star games. And I remember seeing Jim Bob Harris play at the Georgia All-Star games, not really understanding why he's taking me there, because I didn't even think I never thought I would be there. Right. So, I mean, and then I got to see Jim Bob play. And that's when So I saw Jim Bob, and I'm like, this dude is good. And he was playing quarterback. He wasn't even a free safety. He was a quarterback in high school. And so when I see him, and then come to recruiting, everything flowed from Georgia, then Clemson, and UCLA, Alabama. It just kind of, you know how mushroom, it just kind of kept going. And so we got I got the, finally, eventually, Alabama comes knocking. Coach Campbell was my recruiter, and Coach Rousey was the linebacker coach. And so they, anyway, they came and watched some games, and I remember very vividly watching the Sugar Bowl against when Alabama played Arkansas, and I just watched that defense just jack some folks up. And I mean, if you're a linebacker and you watch that team, and then you watch them beat Penn State, and you watch that defense play, it's like, dude, that's where I want to go. I mean, I want to be that. Man. I want to be that. And
Rope, talk about the transition the first day, because when I got there from upstate New York, even though I had George O'Leary, we went undefeated, my high school team. We had 6 or 7 D1 guys. But I got there and saw the varsity come out in 1980. I went, holy shit, there's no way I could play here. These guys are like way too fast and intense.
Well, I'm going to tell you, my high school coach told me this before I went there, the last one I had. He said, man, you going to Alabama? I said, last time I sent somebody to Alabama, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know. He said, you think you fast. He said, you think you're fast. He said, when you get to Alabama, they're going to be going zip, 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 zip. He goes, you ain't going to know what hit you. And I'm like, I was thinking, because get this, man, I was top 10 in my state, like top 10 recruiter of the whole state. So I thought, oh, that's BS. I said, man, Coach Meyer, I'm going to start. I'm going to go play. I'm going to start. And so I get to Alabama, and, the beginning of Alabama was just, it's almost like storybook. It's almost crazy. For instance, like the meeting with Coach Bryant, right? Your first thing you hear, like, don't be late to the meeting. Like, you don't miss Coach Bryant's meeting. And I remember he set us in his freshman. I don't know if he did this with y'all. He probably did, but he set us in freshman, and he gave us postcards. And he said, I want you to fill them out, tell your mom you're good, tell you love Alabama, and you're going to win a national championship. And that's what we wrote. And then he took them up, and they went to mama, and that's what she got. So that was like the first taste of, like, this is Coach Bryant. And then we get out that first day. You mean we had to run miles? And y'all had
2 miles. We had to run 12 minutes. As far as you could go in 12 minutes.
As a freshman, we started out as at an 880. That's all we had to run. So we had run the 880, and then he set us all down, and we watched the varsity come out and do their runs for time, right? And so I'll never forget, there was a defensive lineman that was running with the group. And he started out really, really fast. And I can remember the second lap, he kind of started fading, about quarterback. Third lap, he's in the back. And we're thinking, dude, that guy's struggling. Everybody finishes. He's on that last 220. And Bryant's up in his tower. And he takes that megaphone. And I'm not going to say exactly what Coach Bryant said. But he said, get him off my track, pack his stuff up, and I want him gone. Now, dude, you sitting there as a freshman, and you see a guy who was on the team and looked like a dude, looked like he was could be a player, and he's gone. Like he's gone the first day.
Oh, it's beautiful. Everybody was shocked, weren't they?
Oh man, it was crazy. I mean,
everybody was shocked.
We're sitting there thinking, like, man, what have I got myself? I mean, like, what have I got myself into? And the same thing happened. You recruited, they tell you how great you are. We at freshman practice, I'm running around the end, blow a hamstring out. I'm sitting there laying on the turf, because my hamstring's blown. Goose Tree and Coach Bryant pull up in the car, and Goose Tree, I go, Coach, I think he blew his hamstring out. And Coach Bryant looks dead at me and says, we'll get him off my field. He's slowing up my drill. Now, that is a first impression, because at that moment, I realized that it ain't about Todd Roper. It's about the team, and it's about you either in or you out.
Oh my gosh, Rope, that teammate that Coach Bryant cut from the tower was my roommate my sophomore year.
Get out.
And I was the only happy guy on that field, the only one. He was my roommate, and he was not the greatest roommate, okay? And when Coach Bryant did that, I was so happy and pumped. I think I ran 2 miles in almost 12 minutes.
Oh, dude, you were
I was so happy.
I
was so happy. I was so happy, man. And then the story about you getting hauled off the field because you got to move it up and over 10 yards. Let me tell you a story. Lee Clements, NCIS, real life NCIS guy.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's in the war. He's in the Gulf War, and he gets in this traffic jam. This bomb goes off, and there's cars up, there's Jeeps getting rolled up, and he gets injured right in war, and he finally gets carried out of there, and the doctor says, well, you broke your back, but how did you break your neck?
Oh my God.
Yeah, he said you got an old broken neck. And Lee says it was 1982 when Ricky Moore came through the middle, and I was alone with Ricky Moore. And I laid down on the ground, and Coach Bryant said, move it up and over 10 yards. And and then Ricky got hurt. So the trainers go over to Ricky on the next play, and us walk-ons all the walk-ons had to go pull Lee off. And Lee, poor Lee, man, he could never play again because he had broken his neck and never. Oh man, yeah. We were afraid to go. We were afraid to go to Goose Tree because he'd say, "Why don't you just go?" In that southern, Yank. He'd call me Yank. He called because I was from the north. Yank. I said, Coach, what's wrong with you, Yank? I said, Coach, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do it then. Go over there to that infirmary. Go to that infirmary.
You know what? Was the magnetherm not the heal all? They thought if they put you on a magnetherm, you were automatically healed. I don't know what that thing did. I still don't know to this day.
Nothing. That didn't work. Preston said it never worked. And then after Chris Smith came, never worked. Oh, they sent me over to barbaric treatment at the infirmary. I jammed my neck in LSU against Dalton Hilliard, right? I played the rest of the game, but the next week, they sent me to the infirmary, and they had this contraption rope on my head with this harness over my neck and head and these boots attached to my legs and my ankles, and they was trying to stretch me out. Stretch me out.
I mean, they do that when they torture people, man. They do that when
that's what it was. That's I thought Coach Bryant might have been torturing me because I got hurt. And, he didn't like people getting hurt.
Oh, I know. I think it's funny. I don't know about you, Trip, but did you look at the roster for your position when you signed with Bama to see who was there?
No, I didn't. I didn't even know where Alabama was on the map, Rope, when I came from New York. I had All-Americans ahead of me, so I wasn't seeing the field. Oh, we both got redshirted our sophomore year. Yeah, the only two people that I know of. Tell that story, Rope. Tell that story.
Well, no, that was funny because I was thinking about getting redshirted my sophomore year, but I was thinking about my freshman year. I didn't even look at the roster, right? Because you got Vince Dooley saying you'll play your freshman year. I got a funny story. Gave me my number, said you'll be number 44. You get your high school number. Here's your jersey, all this kind of stuff, right? So I get to Alabama, and Thomas Boyd, Robbie Jones, Eddie Lowe, Roosevelt Hill, Steve Booker, Marcus Hill, then me, the lone white dude, me. And I'll never forget, I'm looking at that and I'm like, we get out there and I got hurt. So I didn't compete to start with these guys, but I just got to watch them on a practice. And Boyd was a freak. I mean, he was just a freak. Robbie Jones was tough as well, but Boyd was a freak. And but I was playing my dad. I'll never forget going home. The first time he ever let us home, Coach Bryant let us go home. It wasn't for like a weekend. And Dad goes, "Why ain't you playing?" And I'm like, I said, "Pops, let me fill you in. There's 2 All-Americans, I'm pretty sure, at linebacker right now. There's 2 juniors that are probably just as good." I said, "Now the 2 sophomores, I might get by them, but there's 4 guys I got to go through that play a down." All right, so then fast forward, I get back out there. This was funny too. First day I get on practice, I go crazy. You know how you go crazy when you first get out there. You just try to smash everybody. I end up, he moves me up. Coach Bryant moves me up to the first team the next day after that practice. Well, of course, I didn't know the play, so I didn't stay there for like 2 days. And then I was back down to the H's. I mean, the H's back then. Mm-hmm. But I can remember in my Thomas Boyd got in trouble and he got kicked off the team. So then that put Robbie up, and then that put Eddie Lowe up. Well, then we had that 3-on-3 drill before the Cotton Bowl. And my good buddy Jim Ivey was a guard. And I just annihilated. I mean, I just like jacked him, you know, and made the tackle. And, you know, all that, everybody's getting pumped up. And I did it again, you know, and everybody's getting pumped up. And I got to make the trip to the Cotton Bowl. And so I'm like, wow, because I ain't dressed the whole year. Mm-hmm. Well, come to the Cotton Bowl, Boyd's gone, Eddie Lowe gets hurt, Steve Booker comes up, Booker has something happen in the second half of the game. I get to play like 3 series in the second half of the Cotton Bowl my freshman year. Crazy. And then, hey, add insult to injury. Alabama was a humbling experience for me. Adding insult to injury, Sports Illustrated in its review of the Cotton Bowl says, and the linebacker, somebody got hurt in the second half, and a guy, the name's not even listed on the roster, comes into the game and has 0 tackles, 0 assists. And I'm like, dang, that's rough. You know, and I actually had 2 tackles and 2 assists when I did play. But, you know, set the record straight for the 1981 Sports Illustrated. Everybody in the world has seen. So, you know, man,
it was hard. It was hard. I had Tommy Wilcox, All-American strong safety, Jeremiah Castile, All-American corner, because I played both corner and strong safety. Free safety a little bit, you know, Benny Perrin and Jim Bob Harris were there. There was no way breaking in, you know, anytime soon. So my sophomore year, I got redshirted. And then, of course, Coach Bryant's last year was the year that we got in, you know, started playing.
Well, that's pretty cool because, like, my redshirt year, Coach Bryant, like, I think it started out, it just evidently my development just wasn't what it was. And they told me I'm in the Georgia Tech game. I traveled to that game. And I remember the trainer going and said, Coach Bryant wants to redshirt you. And if he tries to put you in the game, don't go in. So you basically get to be on the practice squad for a whole year and get the bang heads.
Oh yeah, we were on scout team in H's for most of our career, man. You know, it was a hard road to hoe. Right. No doubt about it. All right, let's talk. After you get out of school, you go to Cumberland Law School in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. Interesting. How did you decide in Cumberland, and how did you get hooked up in your law firm, which you eventually became a partner when Moody, Williams, Roper, and Lee? How did you decide to go to law school, Rope?
Well, I was in the pre-law curriculum over at the business school, and I remember Coach Kynes was my linebacker coach my senior year, and I'll never forget this. He said, Rope, man, why don't you be a GA and you can get into coaching? You know, he goes, you know, you got the brains for it. You could be a good coach. And I looked at him, I said, Coach, I'm gonna go make money. I'm gonna go be a lawyer. And so now think about this, Tripp.
That was a smart decision.
But you know the coaches our age, how much they make now if they're successful.
No, but I did the same thing, Rope. I decided not to coach because they were making $24,000 a year,
Right.
working 80 hours a week.
Well,
I was not willing to do that for 20.
Well, until you saw it the way I did, those guys don't have a life. I mean,
No,
they're recruiting, they're watching film, family life short. I wanted more of a family life.
Yeah,
but the funny
too.
thing about my law school, I just told you, bro, I've been humbled a lot. So I wanted to go to the University of Alabama. My LSAT scores weren't very good. So I go to Coach Perkins trying to get him to help, but he don't ever call nobody. So I end up getting an appointment with the president of Alabama's law school to see if I can work my way into this thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with the they call him the dean, not the president. They call him the dean of the law school. So I get in my meeting with him, and I said, sir, I've given you 5 years of my life on the field. I work hard. My grades are okay. B average. My scores ain't too great, but I can tell you, if you let me in, I'll work harder than anybody else, and I'll get that degree. And he looks at me and he goes, I appreciate that, Mr. Roper, but the University of Alabama's law school is the grooming ground for our senators, our governors, and other high professionals. And I'm sorry, but you just don't meet the qualifications to be in Alabama's law school. So, tail tucked, walk out of there.
Wow,
so at that point, I filed an application to Cumberland School of Law. I told you, I'm not going to publicly admit how bad my LSAT scores were, but I can tell you that my grades were of a C nature. Mm-hmm. And my college grades were B. We'll talk about law school a little bit later. But anyway, I get in Cumberland. I don't know how I get in. I get in. Well, I figured out why I got in. Miss Dodd was a real property professor at Cumberland, was a huge Alabama fan. And she was on the admission board. So she never said anything. She never told me that. It's just, I just got this gut feeling. I just got this gut feeling, man, that she got me in there. But she paid me back because every day in real property class, she would call me to stand up and brief the case every day for the whole semester. And I made a D in the class. A D.
Oh my gosh!
She abused me. I can't. She walk in there. She kind of smoker's voice. She goes, Mr. Roper, tell us about case D so and so versus so and so. And I'd get up and I'd ramble through it, and she'd do the question of me, and walk you in a corner and all that stuff. But
she made you a lawyer, man. She made you a lawyer.
Well, dude, I'm gonna tell you this. There was a bunch of, we had a trial program there. So we got to if you think of a jury trial, it's a lot like a football game. I mean, you got the judge as the referee, you got opposing sides, and your jury are your fans. And if you keep that, it's just like a game, man. It's like a competition back and forth. And the cool thing about law is you're dealing with real lives. This is like cops and robbers stuff, man. It's like, it's just exciting and it's real. And so, that's when I just went to law school. LA law was popular back then. I thought it looked cool to be a lawyer. So I thought I'd just go be a lawyer, and, but then at the end of the day, man, once I got into it, I was like, dude, this is what I want to do. So that's how I ended up. It wasn't that I was, welcomed with open arms by anybody. I think they took a risk on me and I was able to make it. That's what they did.
That's because you got character, Rope, man. You got Coach Bryant. Coach Bryant, man, he was such a guy that could measure people's heart and character more than any coach I've ever been associated in 40 years, 50 years of football. What's some of the hardest cases or judgments you've had to make? Is it weighing the character, is given a second chance? How hard is that?
It's all of that, dude. It's all of that because if you think about it, so I practiced law for 30 years and I did a general practice. So I did everything from DWIs to PI, personal injury cases, Social Security disability, estate work, property. I did a variety of everything. The court that I'm in is a court. I call it the People's Court. We do the volume of the cases in the state of North Carolina Trial Court District. So when you talk about that, man, everybody's case is different. You got to figure out where people come from. Where's their beginning? Like I tell people, I'm blessed. I had a family that loved me. I was never hungry. I had food, clothing, and shelter, and everybody walked with me every day. My parents took me to church. I learned right from wrong. They taught me about God. I said, that's a blessed person. I said, so I understand not everybody got that same, they didn't get that same spoon to be fed out of, right? And so you figure out like how they begin. Now, sometimes think about this, Trip. I do child custody. I do child support. I do juvenile delinquency. I do criminal defense. I do, let's see, the other thing I do is domestic, which is property distribution, divorce, and stuff like that. So I do traffic tickets, man. I mean, so even a simple traffic ticket that someone comes to, they may be just, look, sometimes you'll see that they can't afford to pay. They've made a mistake. They something came up. And they're just like so nervous, and they'll be like crying over a traffic ticket. And you're like, ma'am, it's just a traffic ticket, but you figure out what's going on in their lives, and you try to help them, kind of work through the system. Right. Part of that, you mentioned credibility. Well, yeah, every trial I have, you assess the witnesses, who's believable, who's not believable. And I mean, this is a God thing. I'm going to tell you the God thing about this. This is how it happens. I pray for wisdom, patience each day, and to help me make the right decision. There are times when you got two people, stories are so, man, I'm like, God, that sounds pretty good. Man, that sounds pretty good. Now, of course, you're using all your worldly experience, right? You lived 60-something years, so you think, but you're like, man, I don't know. So you're like, so you're playing it back and forth in your head.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he'll do this. Clear.
Oh, discernment. He gives you discernment on that.
Clear.
Wow.
And the decision is made. And he does it. It happens all the time because one is, I mean, people that I see struggle with so much more than just the law. They may have mental health issues. They may have substance use issues. And so if I can figure out how to help them, because this is a problem with some of the system I'm in. They think, Trip, if I give you X, Y, and Z to do, you're going to heal yourself. Well, human beings can't heal themselves. It takes something greater than them. It takes God. It takes Jesus. It takes that intervention to help you overcome addiction, to help you overcome these type of things. So I know that, and you're trying to, compassionately help people work through that and say, look, this is how if I have problems, this is where I go. Now you do what you want. I mean, you have to do it's your decision. You're an adult. I'm just saying that's where I go for my peace and my, that helps me overcome those obstacles. So it's just at this stage, man, it's like a calling to try to help people be better than they are when they came to you, to help them have a successful life, to have a good family life, to have a job, all that kind of stuff. And I'm a talker, and you ask one question, you get a lot, but you ask me about the hard cases for me and what I do. Every now and then I could hear a murder case concerning just whether there was enough evidence to arrest somebody. So that, I'd listen to the evidence and say, yes, I think a crime was committed, and I believe they could have done it. So then that's one thing that's really tense, right? When you find that somebody is that the arrest is lawful, and you send it up to the jury trial where that person's going up, and they're going to be fighting for their life basically when they get there. And of course, then you got the victims part of that as well. So there's a lot going on there. But the thing I see,
you got to decide intention too. That must be the biggest thing, to decide the intention.
And think about this. A lot of cases, the worst case I see is a misdemeanor death case. And that is a case where somebody's just violated some traffic law, speeding, something, has a collision, somebody dies. Worst cases in the world. Usually involves a lot of young people. And it always, I can tell you, dude, it always happens like this. You got the kid that was a driver that killed his best friend or two friends in a car wreck that he was going too fast, flips it, kills those people. Then you got the family over here of the decedent, state of North Carolina prosecuting them for this case, and it's a misdemeanor, A1 misdemeanor. And you got them over here, but then you got all those family members. And the way it plays out in this situation, the guy's pled guilty to it because of the facts. The way it plays out is the family comes about only two ways. Either they want him dead or they want him sentenced to the max and they want him tortured. That's the attitude. Or a family member may exercise forgiveness and say, I forgive this young man or this young lady. What people fail to realize is the dude over here that just lost his two friends, he's going to live with that the rest of his life. So he's over here crying. He's over here just a shell of a person because he has killed his friends. And then everybody's looking at you, those two competing factors, right? Because the family over here, you know, they're never like, oh, I didn't do it. I mean, they're like, I'm so sorry. And they're so beat down, right? And they're so emotional and they're so this. And their families, you know, just want some mercy, some grace. And it's that balancing of those competing type feelings that makes it so tense. It makes it so like just difficult. And you have to make a call. And people sometimes when you say, you know, that I hope that you can find peace. Lord can grant you some peace in this situation. And, you know, like I'll never forget one case. I had the mother was driving, her daughter died. It was a step family situation. The dads was there, the stepmom was there, and they were just wanting blood, basically. And I'll never forget, they gave me documents to read about the child, right? For the child, and everybody talking about the child, a loving child, a kind child, a child that didn't ever see bad in anybody, a child that would forgive everybody. And I looked at those folks and I said, this 9-year-old was so ahead of his time. Everything you've written about him is talking about peace. It's talking about love. It's talking about forgiveness. And I said, he's already told us he's in a special place. He's already told us how we should be acting, feeling,
responding
to the situation. And you know, whether sometimes, but they're all different, Trip, all of them. So that was just one. And that's the hardest thing to do is because you say, look, you know, and then sometimes when they're real mean and it's like, ma'am, the most I can do is 150 days. I mean, that's just by law. I can't do more than that. So if you're wanting him to go away for life or wanting him to be put in the death penalty, I can't do that. So, you know, anyway,
that's tough. That's tough. You know, but back to Bama football, you know, the transition, we were there from the legend, Coach Bryant to Coach Perk, and I played for him in Tampa Bay. And then Coach Bryant, I think, told Galen McCullough, Dr. McCullough, and probably some other friends that he kind of knew there'd be a dip, and he also knew Alabama fans would not understand. Well, history's repeating itself, Rope. You know, I mean, there's a little bit of dip after the legend Saban, you know, the second best coach in college football history. And so Bama fans aren't understanding why. It's, you know, we've had the two best coaches at one school. There's 140 schools, Rope, that play the game. how did we get so lucky? The odds are almost astronomical to have the two best. Why would you think we're going to have number 3? That's even crazier. Even
I
crazier.
think, well, I don't know what you do, but expectations have always been high. I mean, I tell people all the time, I say, if you don't win a national championship, you really failed your stint at Alabama.
Right.
And, I just, it was, my journey at Alabama was a tough one. And I think, for us to repeat, I think, Coach Bryant had, he had his way for sure. And I think Coach Bryant, I resonated more to Coach Bryant than I did with Coach Perkins. It was something about his character. You remember he'd have like Coach Croom's dad come talk to us about how to treat people and how to open the door for ladies and say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And he would give us little ditties and stuff. He was just so human to me and but hard, right? Hard, but human. And then, it was just like, it was interesting because the transition, we don't really talk about it much because you had a different experience than my experience, right? I mean, you play for Perkins, you end up going to the pros and play with Coach Perkins. So your view is going to be different than my view because, see, I start out with Rousey leaves, end up with Croom, who's really not a linebacker coach. And then, so I start my sophomore year. And then after the 6th game, we lose to Penn State, lose Tennessee by a little bit, lose to Penn State. Next thing you know, there's some bright dudes. We gone. I mean, we're benched. And, I couldn't quite understand it. And I go talk to Perkins and he says, well, you ain't fast enough. And that's basically what he said. You ain't fast enough.
Yeah.
And I still don't believe that to this day. But it was interesting in this regard that, you go through that. The next year, I just play special teams. And you're talking about going from starting to special teams and not seeing the field. And then I got Coach Kynes come in my senior year, and he opened it up so we could compete for the position. And you get an opportunity to play again. And it was nice to be able to start towards the end of my career and to play against Bo Jackson my senior year against Auburn and Van Tiffen, who everybody loves, and I love him, cherish him, to win that game. So the ups and downs, but it builds character. However you want to play it builds character in yourself. And so I think the key today, when we talk about, say, like, how do we go from Bryant to Saban to, well, one, it's really tricky, I think, because you got coaches recruited by this guy, coaches recruited by this guy. And then you're trying to get your system in there. And how does that mesh, right? Without having morale issues or problem issues, or because I always say people in the locker room know who's supposed to be playing. So
they do.
If you get some of that going, then you start having those situations where the cohesiveness, the team ain't the team like it needs to be, right?
Right.
And so, and then, we didn't have NIL. We didn't have transfer portal. I think we could transfer when I was there, but I always told people, if I couldn't make it at Bama, I wasn't going to Georgia Tech. I wasn't going back to Georgia. I wasn't going back to – I didn't want to embarrass my family, embarrass my people.
I know. I would never –
I would play, and even though I didn't get like 4 years like I wanted, just to be on the field and to compete at a high level is just – that's it. So – this paying, this is what I'll tell you from a judge standpoint when I deal with juvenile delinquencies. We go to classes that talk about how kids' brains are not quite developed when they're 18 years old, right? And we talk about crimes are committed because they're risk takers, they don't think things through and all that stuff.
Right.
What in the world made adult human beings believe that we should let 18-year-old children and their families determine how you run your program? And who comes where, how much they get paid, what they get, what they don't get. I mean, Signetti had that formula. He figures out, because this is another thing I think. Signetti knows how to recruit football players.
Yep.
You can look at speed, jump, you jump so high, do this, do that. But there's a thing called football players. And the question is that dude around the ball? Is that defensive back there? Does he get beat deep? Is he a run stopper? is he a player? Like, there's so many guys. Tommy Wilcox was not physically impressive looking, but a player. And so you have those guys. So,
he wasn't the fastest guy or the strongest guy or the smartest guy. He was pretty smart at football smarts. I'll give him that, man.
Well, it's instinct,
football
dude.
Smart. It's instinct. I
Yeah.
was a 4.55 guy. I wasn't that fast. I looked weird when I ran. I mean, but I'd be around the ball. I had – bro, in 4 NFL starts, I had 6 turnovers in 4 NFL starts. 6 turnovers,
dude. That's
but I never saw the field again, because those are lessons you learn, humble lessons you learn.
Yes.
From those kind of adventures. In Bama, it was at Bama too. You always had to fight for your job week in and week out, man. It was a lesson. Is that what the lesson learned in football? I was going to ask you that question. What lesson in football helps you more as a judge and a lawyer?
I'm going to tell you, man, my worst day in the courtroom is nothing like my worst day on the football field, because this is the deal, dude. Our kids need to learn how to handle adversity today. Mm-hmm. Parents, as parents, we got to do a better job of having our kids be mentally tough and physically tough, because my dad worked me like he would find things like for me to go to work. When I was like, I'll never forget, I'm 11 years old, and some guy at church wanted building a barn, and my dad said, well, Todd, I'll help you do that. Got paid $1 a day to build that barn. But it taught you how to work, how to do this, how to have discipline. You had rules you had to follow. You had to do this. So it's creating Alabama for me. You come in highly rated, you get knocked down, you have a choice. Am I just going to give up, or am I going to keep fighting? And Alabama taught me how to deal with adversity, how to deal with the moments when things don't go well, how to adjust, how to fight. It also taught me how to be humble, and how to realize that, you need to realize that you have a gift given from God, one, and that you need to have humility in your affairs. If you're successful, great, but give thanks for that. If you're successful, great, give back to others. If you're successful, great, do those things that will make a difference in the world for your teammates and for everybody else. And so the adversity is that's one. The scheduling, the discipline, the having to go to school, make the grades, study at late hours, and then have to get up and go to class and then go fight. You got go fight in the afternoon, and then all that. So it teaches you how to be responsible, be accountable, and when you're representing people, they expect results. And when if I represented you and you had some legal issue, you didn't come to me to lose. Mm-hmm. You came to me to make your situation better, whatever that situation may be. So if I didn't have that, and it's like a jury, man, when you go before a jury, it's a show, Paul. It's a show. It's like, how can I be the most convincing? How can I? It's like when we go to the game, man, it's the show, right? It's time to get It's
time for the show. Yeah.
Pumped up, get those butterflies. And, once that first sentence comes up, once that first cross-examination question happens, man, you're flowing. You're going. You're in the rhythm. And so football prepares you to deal with those type of issues out in the real world. And that's what I mean.
Oh, God, Todd, I think about it, Todd, but I'm really worried about it, that comment on today's society, especially the way college football has gone. It's okay to pay a kid, but I didn't know how to handle $1,000 in college, let alone $100,000. That would not be good for me. It would have never been good for me to have that money. I was in the right situation. Yeah, I had to, practice 240 times and work out 500 times before I pulled on the jersey, but it was worth it. Because I would have transferred if I was born later and coming along at this time, and I didn't get along with Lewis Campbell, for whatever reason, but we ended up getting along and ended up playing, but I would have never played at Alabama. I would have transferred and gone somewhere else. And I'm thankful that I lived at the age we did.
think about this. That's why marriages are so easy to get out of. When you make things easy, then they just take advantage of it. It's just like a divorce. You know, some states you can get divorced in 90 days. I mean, it's made it too easy. And so, I mean, exactly what you're saying. I mean, there's a certain amount of, if you can never be settled where you are, and if you're always, and two, what is the deal, man? Why is somebody going to say, okay, guys, not everybody's going pro. You got, what is, you probably know the percentages. It's some
1.6%.
1.6, right? And I mean, we all think we're going pro. I mean, when I come out of high school, I think I'm going pro, right? Well, it didn't happen. And I mean, so I mean, sometimes these kids are like, I'm going pro. Well, okay, I love dreams. I want you to have dreams. I mean, you got to have that to keep the drive going. But at some point, you got to go.
You got to go plan B. That's got to be your blood, your passion. You got to have a passion too.
Right. Maybe it's good. Maybe I should get an education. Maybe I should take advantage of that. Maybe I should look at, hey, guess what? You're going to put your cleats up someday. Now, it may be 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years. But, you know, I just think that we short sell the fact that I think that we don't realize, are we really making men? Are we really? Coach Bryant made men. You know, he always said, like, all Americans I ain't real good with, because, you know, you see all Americans, they come on, they're different. They just different. But he said the guy who really wants to give effort, who's got talent, but I can get the most out of him and make him play. And so kids that keep bouncing, they're never going to learn how to deal with adversity.
Right. Exactly.
They're never going to learn how to have to set a goal to accomplish. And oh, by the way, I didn't get it in 10 practices. I didn't get it in 20 practices. How about, man, I would like to know how many I did. I think you counted them. I'd like to know I did my freshman year, my sophomore year, before I even get on the field. So
it was over 200. I counted them one time. We both did over 200. It's crazy. That's a shame. But what's next for you, buddy? What do you got? You got one grandchild? Just one?
Oh yeah,
I got 3.
Well, hey, you're a blessed man. So
they're joy, man. They're pure joy.
Oh God, dude, they're like my. It's a granddaughter. It's kind of fun trip. I had 3 daughters, so I'm a girl dad. I mean, I don't know. Like, I had a thought. My dad didn't make college. I made college. My boy's gonna go pro. Well, guess what? This didn't work that way. And little girls will just they just do something to their daddy. They just do. Yeah. And it's a bond that you can't. It's hard to describe. And they have your heart. They just do. And this grandbaby has my heart. I mean, when I had kids, it seemed like we were so like trying to raise youngins. And I don't know if I sat and really took in everything about what was going on. Like, I watch her, dude. I take her outside, say, hey, come on, let's go outside. And she ain't the one to have. And she just kind of toodles around there beside me, sits in a pile of rocks and just starts going to town, right? And I'm like, dude, it don't get no better than this. But watching her explore and look at her little eyes, just look at everything and grabbing and touching stuff and figuring out what it is, or, ooh, I don't like that, or just
you know what I do, Rope? You know what I do with Kerry Good on Monday nights, man? We deep dive into his book and we talk about subjects like that, man. How time flies by, what words to say, how can God put words in your mouth? We talk about those subjects on Monday night. And Kerry is so wisdom filled, man. Dude, you'd be so proud of him.
Well, I'm gonna tell you that his it's a God thing, man. It just is. And he is such an example. And I didn't know him very well. I knew when he came and he got his knee hurt and that kind of stuff. I didn't really know, but I've had clients that had the same condition, and I've walked with them through that. And I know what a challenge it is. And I know but the way he has kept God centered and kept such an attitude that's just, it's almost miraculous in and of itself. The way he is. Yeah.
Okay, you should see the words that come out of his mouth, Todd. They're like a wordsmith, and I know he was struggled with English just like I did in college.
Right.
Man, he didn't know a pronoun from a noun. So and he told me God gives him the words, and man, and he is hilarious too, man. He's funny. He's funny on my show. You have to catch it. Hey, man, it was great catching up with you, Rope.
Yeah, brother.
Man, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad you kind of like Shu. You got all girls, and one of your daughters was a great athlete, huh? Your oldest one.
Yeah, she's a state champion in tennis, and so that was a pump, man. I think I enjoy watching my children play more than I enjoy playing. Actually, it's
more nervous. I was more nervous.
It's just a pump, man, to watch them compete, right? Like she played basketball and she'd be guarding their best player, and I'd be like, "Shut her down, T, shut her down," and she'd shut her down. You know how it is, man. When you coach your boys and you got football,
the girls run. My granddaughter shut that leading scorer down, man, and they'd come back from 10-1.
Yeah.
I thought they would never come back. I've seen hundreds of thousands of sports games, and I was wrong on that night just a few weeks ago. It's cool. Good to see you. Good to see you, Rope.
You, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Take care, man.
Love you and roll tide.
Love you, buddy. So long. Roll tide. Todd Roper, man, Honorable Christopher Todd Roper, District Judge, North Carolina. Man, what a great guy. He's just a super person, a super teammate. We went through his chronicled his life story, which is really amazing. What a super man. So proud of him. Thanks for watching the show. Stay tuned for these great messages. Without these sponsors, this wouldn't be possible, especially Sandy Sansing Chevrolet, the Seiler Agency, Ronnie's Car Wash, Sterling, Arbitrium, Pensacola Glass, all the great sponsors. Don't want to miss anybody. State Farm, Will Rentschler. Thanks for watching. Have a great sports weekend, everybody. It's playoff time. So long.
When it comes to buying your next car, truck, or SUV, you need a team that puts you first. Here at the Sandy Sansing dealerships, we're proud to serve Pensacola and the Gulf Coast with the best selection, trusted service, and deals that work for your family. Just like great coaches build great teams, Sandy Sansing builds lasting relationships with every customer who walks through our doors. Because when it comes to finding your next vehicle, there's only one name to remember. Sandy Sansing can.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
75 years of service in high tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than the simple painted brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
When it comes to buying your next car, truck, or SUV, you need a team that puts you first. Here at the Sandy Sansing dealerships, we're proud to serve Pensacola and the Gulf Coast with the best selection, trusted service, and deals that work for your family. Just like great coaches build great teams, Sandy Sansing builds lasting relationships with every customer who walks through our doors. Because when it comes to finding your next vehicle, there's only one name to remember. Sandy Sansing can.